Courtrooms are like chemical reactions that could go wrong and blow up in your face at any second. It's such a high pressure situation for everyone, the person on trial, the families of the criminal and the victim if a victim is involved, the fact that the rest of your life is in the hands of the presiding judge. Sometimes justice is served and sometimes it isn't. What is up you guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host Ayman Hassan and welcome back to another video. Today we're going before the jury and finding out about the top 10 insane courtroom freakouts before sentencing. Starting us off at number 10 is Judge McBain. And not every courtroom freakout comes from the perpetrator or the victim's family. Sometimes a case is so horrifying and a person lacks even the slightest bit of humanity that even judges can lose it at times. And that's exactly what happened during the 2014 trial of Camia Gamut. In May of 2012, Camia stabbed her boyfriend Marcel to death, claiming she thought he was an intruder and was facing murder charges for it. During her trial, Marcel's family reads out a heartfelt letter during which you can see Camia laugh and roll her eyes. Judge McBain saw this and went off saying, "You're going to shut your mouth or you're going to have duct tape put on it. He attacked me. Alright, we'll wait here for a moment to get her quiet." Even when Marcel's nephew was talking about the abuse he had suffered during his death, Camia responded saying, "Is that it?" Right before he announced her guilty conviction, McBain couldn't hold in his anger any longer and started shouting at her saying, "You gutted him in that apartment like a fish. You were relentless in that room. You stabbed and stabbed and stabbed until he was dead. Maybe one stab wound, okay, that's self-defense, but you put in 11 more to make sure he was good and dead. So I agree with the family. I hope you die in prison as well. If this was a death penalty state, you'd be getting the chair." Oh, McBain!
Sam, and I'll tell you, you gutted him like a fish in that apartment too. You were relentless. You stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed until he was dead. You didn't think he was an intruder. You know, maybe one stab wound, okay, maybe that's self-defense. But you put in 11 more to make sure he was good and dead.
Coming in at number 9 is Michelle Blair. Now back in 2015, Michelle Blair was put on trial for murdering 2 of her children, 13-year-old Stoney Blair and her 9-year-old son Stephen. Apparently she killed Stephen in 2012 and then stored him in a freezer and killed Stoney the next year. Michelle claimed the 2 were sexually harming her youngest son Matthew, and that's why she did it. During the trial, when she's had absolutely enough, she puts the blame on her partner or ex-partner and shouts, "F you, everybody wanna know? Yes, I did kill her." Then during her custody hearing afterwards, the allegations towards her were read out as follows: failure to protect and abandonment. At this, Michelle loses it and shouts at one of her partners saying, "You had never been there for those kids. You were always on sex sites. I had to beg you to come see them. I did it. I never tried to say I didn't do it. I did it. We always had to beg him to come see them. We cried and we begged." She then starts thrashing about before she had to be escorted out of the courtroom. I don't know how she still wants custody of her 2 surviving children after she killed the other 2. Like, do the maths, Michelle.
I never tried to say I didn't. I did it, but that does not negate the fact that they were never there for their children. I had to struggle with them all the time. They were never there.
You get
Stephen,
your
you
shit.
know we had to beg you. Me, Stephen, all of us used to cry for you.
At number 8 we have Peter HAFER. Back in 2008, Peter was facing burglary charges for a robbery at Kmart and was appointed Doug Crickmer as his public defender. Now during the hearing, Peter claimed he was unhappy with the service Doug had provided, and while the latter was responding, Peter just straight up sucker punched him in the jaw and sent Doug straight to the floor. If that wasn't bad enough, he got on top of him and then started punching his stomach multiple times before being pulled off of him. Peter's violent tantrum got him 6 months in jail for contempt of court. And if you look at Doug's face after the fact, his right eye is fully black, his left eye is also black, his jaw is swollen to no degree, and even after all that, he didn't press charges claiming he has no ill will against Peter. Doug, you have a bigger heart than me, pal, I'll tell you that much. Filling our number 7 slot is Penelope SOTO. I remember seeing a clip of her talking to the judge a few years ago, and she clearly was on some drug or the other because she was making just the weirdest facial expressions. And also, I know I shouldn't say this, but she's also low-key stunning. But anyway, back in 2013, Penelope was arrested for the possession of drugs. At her hearing, after saying she's not on drugs when she clearly was, and considering she had no prior offenses, the judge just gave her a $5,000 bail and she cheekily says adios before leaving. Judge Jorge then summons her back and you can see her laughing yet again and not taking anything seriously. The judge then says count 1 is now a $10,000 bail and she's like, are you serious? She then laughs and leaves, flipping him off and saying F you, mother effer. Here Judge Jorge gets super pissed and tells her to come back again and asks her if she just said what he thinks she said. And Penelope's there all sassy being like, yeah, I said what I said, I'm not gonna deny it. And then Judge Jorge says he finds her in direct criminal contempt and sentences her to 30 days in the county jail. Penelope, Penelope, Penelope. You gotta learn when to shut your pie hole.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Come back, ma'am. Count 1 will be 10,000.
Are you serious?
I am serious. Adios.
Now at number 6 is ERNIE TERTELGTE. Back in August of 2013, ERNIE was fishing for food with his son when a park warden asked him if he had a license to fish, which I mean is pretty standard. ERNIE then said he didn't need a license to feed his kids since he's a sovereign citizen who lives outside of modern laws in the mountains. The park warden was like, okay, I don't know what crack you're smoking, but I'm gonna have to arrest you, which ERNIE then obviously resisted, and so obstruction of justice and resisting arrest were also added to the list of charges against him. During the hearing, ERNIE interrupts everyone multiple times as early as when his name is being read out. He objects to it and says, I'm not the name he's referring to, that name is held by the state, I am just a living man. He then calls the judge a British appointed squire who can't talk to him in the country of the United States. He then continuously interrupts the judge after she tells him he can't interrupt the prosecutor. He goes on to say, you cannot tell me what sounds to make or not make. And this goes on for a really long time before he's escorted out of the room in handcuffs and forced to watch the hearing go on from another room. In a subsequent hearing, when ERNIE's had enough, he literally adjourns the courtroom himself and leaves. I'm pretty sure you can't do that. Coming in at number 5 is the stalker. Judge MCBAIN is back at it again with this case involving a woman and a man she went to high school with who has been stalking her for the last god knows how long. The case already went to court and MCBAIN told him to stay away from the woman, which he violated hours after the courtroom was adjourned. In the next hearing, the woman goes on about how he keeps messaging and calling her, and then the guy goes, I want her to tell me to leave her alone, and MCBAIN's like, I already told you to leave her alone, and clearly that didn't get through to him, so you're going to jail for 3 days. The defendant then loses it and says MCBAIN and the girl are all buddy-buddy, and then MCBAIN goes off saying you have a bad attitude and you get 45 days in county jail. Then the guy's like, bullshit. McCain goes 93 days in jail, and the guy keeps chatting so much that MCBAIN's like, you wanna go to county jail for a year? Try me. He's then told to stand up to be cuffed and taken to jail, and he's just not listening and calls MCBAIN a buddy-buddy motherfucker. So obviously MCBAIN gives him a year. He then starts struggling with the guard, and that's when MCBAIN takes his robe off and is like, tase his right now, and he gets involved in the brawl himself. It's quite MCBAIN. He's a very interesting, entertaining judge.
93 days in the county jail. You want to go for a year? Try it right now. One more word out of you, it'll be a year of counting.
Over Facebook. Like, really, buddy, more.
Stand up. You're going to jail for a year in the county. 365 days county jail.
At number 4 is Alan Miller McCarthy. Back in August of 2018, Alan was watching his trial from a separate room after having the biggest outburst ever. Now, in a prior custody battle, Alan had threatened to kill the presiding judge, Stacia Warren, and so this trial was about convicting him of those charges. Now, mid-trial, before Alan was moved, he starts saying how he never threatened the other judge and starts shouting expletives at the judge. He starts by saying, what a bunch of lies, you stupid piece of shit. Then come the FUs with the continuous use of the N-word before the judge tells him he's going to the back room. At this point, Alan's like, suck my, you know, and refuses to stand up and gets actually dragged by the officers to the back room.
I hope you fall on that baby's head.
Filling at number 3 slot is Judge John Murphy. This one kind of made me laugh, to be honest, and it happened in Brevard County back in 2014. Public defender Andrew Weinstock was there on behalf of his client, and Murphy and Weinstock started arguing big time over the latter's refusal to waive his client's right to a speedy trial. The back and forth goes on for a while before Judge Murphy has had it and is like, you know, if I had a rock, I would throw it at you right now. Stop pissing me off, just sit down, I'll take care of this, I don't need your help, sit down. Weinstock then replied saying he had a right to be there, and Murphy replied heatedly saying, I said sit down, if you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just beat your ass. The two then literally go outside and fight, and you can hear their screams and scuffling before the judge re-enters the room without Weinstock. So clearly we know who won that fight. Now, at number 2 is Michael Madison. Back in 2013, Cleveland serial killer Michael Madison was on trial for the murder of 3 women. In October of that year, his trial went underway and Van Terry, the father of one of the victims, took the stand. He tried his best to say what he wanted to say and not let the emotions overtake him. I mean, keep in mind this dude mutilated, tortured, and sexually these girls after they had died. How could any dad keep their emotions in check? I would have killed him by now. Legitimately. The whole thing proved too much in the end when mid-sentence Terry looked at Michael's face and saw that he was smiling. Terry just freaking snapped and literally flew across the room and lunged at him over the table, all the while Michael was still laughing and smiling away. He didn't get to inflict the damage that I'm sure he wanted to on the killer since guards intercepted him before he had the chance. However, justice was served because in the end, Michael was sentenced to death for his crimes. And finally, at number 1 is Larry Nassar. I'm sure everyone has heard of the US gymnastics national team doctor Larry Nassar, the one who sexually abused over 250 girls, including Ali Raisman, Simone Biles, and so on. And he was finally called out in 2015. Then in 2018, Nassar was on trial with Randall Margreaves as his 3 daughters gave their testimonies about his abuse. Before the sentencing, Randall stands up and asks if allowing him to be in a locked room with this demon for 5 minutes could be included in his sentence. When the judge says no, he asks, can you give me 1 minute? And she says that's not allowed, and before she can even finish her sentence, Randall lunges at Nassar and tries to beat him up and has to be restrained and subdued onto the ground by 4 people. All the while he's just shouting, let me at that son of a b***. After he was calmed down, he apologized for his outburst but shared the statement at a later news conference. I believe in heaven and hell, and I can only hope that when the day comes that Larry Nassar has ended his days on earth, that he will be escorted to one of the deepest, darkest, hottest pits in hell there is for him and people like him. I hope there's a lot of pain attached to it because he certainly left a lot of pain on this earth. I believe you, brother. I stan you. Larry Nassar, you're a piece of shit. And that is it for today's video, guys. Oh my god, it's actually crazy to see people in this like raw, vulnerable state where like their primal instincts really do come out and they're just fighting all over the place because their life is literally on the line for these cases. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and let me know if you guys had followed any of these cases before I mention them, as I'd love to know. As always, I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye! Judge McBain saw this and went off saying, you're gonna shut your mouth or you're gonna have to duct tape put... Stop. Judge McBain saw this and went off saying, you're gonna shut... Why? Okay, relax, okay. Her 13-year-old...
Probably Michelle.
Huh?
Probably Michelle.
No, it's actually Mitchelle.
Is it Michelle?
It's Mitchelle. We don't know. And starts shouting expletives.
Or he starts saying
he didn't get to inflict the damage that I'm sure he wanted to on the killer since guards